Right now, we have the most patient people that ever existed right now, and that is our representatives and partners from Magellan. Mr. Courtney, do you want to come up? And this is exciting. This is a discussion of city fiber network plans. So we want to welcome Courtney Violet. I don't know, is Courtney CFO, COO, or COO? We are ready. So, Mr. Violet, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a cool? I think we're ready to go.
Yes, we are.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Courtney Violet with Magellan Advisors. Excited to be here in Waterloo this evening. One moment. Council, we're here this evening to give you an update on the fiber project here within the city of Waterloo. Our agenda, we're going to give you a background update on the project. We're going to talk about business models and deployment options. One second. There we go. And then we'll talk through some recommendations and next steps. As you may know, we've been at this since January of 2020. We had a little bit of delay in 2020 due to COVID, and we performed most of the assessment remotely during that time. Last year in April, City Council authorized design of both the backbone and fiber to the home project, and so that's been underway for the last year. We are currently at 90% design, so the design is coming to a completion, and we're at a point where we can start developing construction bids and all of the other things that come along with this project to move it forward. So very exciting. We do intend on being done with design by August of this year, so just in a couple months. During this time, we've worked very closely with the mayor and city staff from finance and public works and engineering. A lot of collaboration over the last year through this design process, so we appreciate that time. We've also talked a lot over this time about different business models and concepts as to how the city could deploy fiber, again, throughout the city of Waterloo. Two real project goals through this project. First and foremost was the development of a fiber backbone that would interconnect city facilities, sites, parks, traffic cabinets, utility assets, and important public spaces. And then also a plan to provide ubiquitous high-speed internet to every home and business across the city of Waterloo. There also are a couple opportunities we want to speak to, most notably the fact that it's a great time to build networks. There is tons of funding out there and available, as many of you likely know. There is ARPA funding that's out there and available. There's also additional grants that are in formation, and details are starting to come out. You've got great opportunities to partner with local communities that are doing the same thing and that have developed assets and infrastructure over the years that the city of Waterloo could take advantage of if it decides to move forward here. And then also, as I said a minute ago, leverage any additional funding that may be available by way of potential grants or any of the other funding programs that are in development. As I mentioned, there's really two components to this project. The first is the backbone, and that's depicted here. We have over 100 miles designed to connect several hundred sites throughout the city. Again, these are your city sites and facilities like community centers, fire stations, city hall. It's also your utility assets, as well as traffic cabinets, parks, and other locations that have been identified. We have our cost estimates that are outlined here on the right-hand side for this project. The top portion of the project is the actual construction costs to build out the network, estimated at about $27 million, and additional costs to connect the hundreds of devices or hundreds of sites that have been identified. So those portions of cost towards the bottom, roughly $1.5 million, just over $1.5 million, are actual for equipment and racks and facilities within each of your sites to connect to the network. The green routes here that you see on this map are the primary backbone routes throughout the city. It's meant to interconnect all major corridors and all major areas of the city. And then the red lines that you see are extensions off to hit your city sites and facilities. The second part of this project, and again, you see the screen on the left-hand side, is to ensure that a fiber line runs down every street throughout the city so that every home or business has the opportunity to connect into the network. The distribution part of this design, which again is your blue components of the network here, it's about 390 miles. So the entire network build is just over 500 miles throughout the city. On the right-hand side, again, you can see the cost breakdowns. This is 3 times more distance, 3.5 times more distance than the backbone. Costs are much higher. The total build out for fiber to the home is just under 62 million, with another approximately 25 million in additional facilities. These are buildings small buildings that would be located throughout the city that would house electronics and equipment, general equipment and tools, trucks, splicing equipment, testing units, core network equipment, including routers and switches and software, as well as drops to the homes that connect. So the way this works, the $18 million in the last line there is really an incremental cost that's expended as homes are connected. That's not an upfront cost, that's part of construction, but as homes are connected, you have to spend the cost to actually connect each of the homes. And so that is based on roughly 35% of your homes, businesses, and MDUs taking service. We completed a consumer survey back in April. Hopefully many of you participated in that survey. Over 2,700 responses, which we think is a fairly good response rate for a community this size. You can see a few of the stats here that we've collected. Again, number of service providers are here and available within the city, as you know. Mediacom and CenturyLink are your 2 biggest providers that are here providing service today. You can see the median speeds that we captured from the surveys themselves. So about 75 meg is the median download speed and about 22 meg upload. And then towards the right-hand side, you can see various questions we asked the respondents. How often does your internet go down? Approximately 56% of those respondents experience noticeably slow internet multiple times a week or even daily. You can also see about half of them were dissatisfied with current prices and provider support that they're receiving. This data is out there and available. We've passed it on to city staff, so it should be available to you as well. Once we've wrapped up the bulk of the design process, we also started to look at how we would roll out potential construction for a project like this. As you can see on the map here, each of those colored squares or polygon areas are essential fiber deployment areas. We identified about 136 of them throughout the city. You're averaging somewhere around 250 homes or connections per neighborhood. And what we did here was worked to prioritize the neighborhoods as it related to a lot of different data that we collected through this process. As some of you may know, the grant funding that's available, both ARPA as well as grant funds that are coming down, all have certain eligibility requirements, right? So we wanted to look at some of those in here and rank the areas based on not only accessibility, but also affordability, reliability. We looked at income levels in certain areas. And again, tried to make sure that we could prioritize this in a way that made sense and that also allowed you to take advantage of any funding that you have available that, again, has specific requirements around eligibility as to where it's spent. We took numerous data sources and created a methodology to rank these areas. The areas in yellow or light are a higher priority. The areas in dark are a little bit lesser priority. Number of details in this spreadsheet that we collected. So route distances, right? How much construction was necessary in each given neighborhood? What's the average cost per foot in that neighborhood, right? In the rural areas around the outer edges of the city, it's going to be less of a cost per foot than more in the densely populated areas of the city where you have concrete, right? And you have other obstacles in kind of the urban built environment. We also looked at number of households within a given area. We looked at the cost per household. We looked at whether or not it was a recognized low moderate income area by Housing and Urban Development. We also looked at the number of surveys that were captured in each of the neighborhoods and the speed tests data that we received. And then lastly, we wanted to identify whether or not it met the requirement based on the survey data we collected, if the users were receiving 100 meg by 20, which is really the targeted speeds that Treasury and the administration right now is pushing. From this, we devised, hey Chris, this isn't going. We created a potential build plan. So we identified potentially a 3-phase build out plan. You can see based on the cost of each of those phases in the left-hand side. Again, we try to break it up into 3 phases, kind of equal phases. What you'll notice on some of these in phase 1, right, there's almost 11,000 homes at a cost of about $14.7 million. You can see as you get to phase 3, right, almost 8,900 homes at a cost of $16 million. So the methodology, the process, right, of connecting as many homes as we can for the least amount of money, and then connecting, right, everyone else in phase 2 and phase 3, kind of proved itself out here. So from a potential build plan, you can see here, right, we would focus on the areas in green first, followed by yellow, followed by red. Again, trying to connect as many homes and businesses as possible with the money you have. And again, we've talked at length over the last several months as to what the right model is for the city of Waterloo. And there's really 2 models that we feel the city could deploy under. One is the retail provider model. So, you know, this is the CFU model, if you will, right? Where the city builds out the network, deploys the services, right? Answers the phones, take care of the customers, and provides the full retail experience. We've estimated in here triple play. So again, high-speed internet, voice, as well as cable TV or video services. And the other model we looked at was more of an open access, right? The city builds out the infrastructure and then looks with and partners with industry to come in and actually provide the service using a licensing agreement to generate revenue, where providers that come in and use your network, again, are paying you for the access and paying you to be here to partner with the city. Wanted to make sure you understood some of the pros and cons of each. So those are here on the slide deck. You know, most importantly, from a retail provider perspective, right, it does put the city in the full control, in the driver's seat to determine how, when, where you deploy services. It also allows you to keep 100% of the revenue generated from the system. You don't have partners that are taking portions and parts of that revenue. Supports the local Waterloo community, right? The decision makers under this model are sitting right here at the dais. And you are able to use your strong city image and brand to carry that through for the operation of the utility. You have the legal authority, as I understand it. This was passed several years ago, the referendum. And again, you have great opportunities to partner with peer municipalities here in the region that are doing the same and are doing really well at it. From an open access perspective, you know, it can reduce the operational risk because you're leveraging, right, a provider that would come into town and that does this day in and day out. There would be some cost sharing and obviously the introduction of new competition in the market. And again, it meets the goal of expanding high-speed broadband coverage across the city. Lots of, you know, number of cons on each of these. Obviously, in order to do this on your own, you have to be able to finance and fund the project, right? That's the first hurdle. Second, you know, construction, management, operations of a telecom isn't something you do today. And so it is a new process. It's a new business you're getting into. Staffing is required, right, for anything you do. This is no different. And there's a staffing plan that we've built as part of the project. Competition, right, that's something that you don't do today from a water sewer perspective, right? You're a monopoly, not so much here, right? So the city would be entering into a competitive space. And then obviously any technological risks or any uncertainties in the market. The one thing I would say is we do know that fiber is the gold standard, right? And we know that that will be the gold standard for years to come. From a pros perspective on the open access side, again, less city control, loss of revenue opportunity. You're going to have some operating costs that you have to pay for to manage and maintain the network. You know, there are no partners identified as of right now, so we don't know specifically what those contributions could be or what the revenues would look like. And again, market failures, abandonments, right? There could be legal risks or challenges as well. some key decisions and direction that we're looking from the council for is, first of all, what model makes the most sense for the city? Is it the retail model? Is it more of an open access model where you own the infrastructure, but you look to partner with providers to provide the end user service? Or do you start on the backbone and take more of a wait and see approach on fiber to the home? From a funding perspective, as I understand, there are some ARP allocations that have been potentially earmarked for broadband. So that's a consideration. The rest of the financing would likely come from bonds or some other finance instrument. And then, as I mentioned, there's also some state and federal grants that are working their way down. We'll have to see if Waterloo qualifies or is eligible for any of those funds, but we have our ear to the pavement and make sure we're keeping a good eye on that. Finally, I think there are some timelines if you should go the GEO bond election route. There is deadlines of next month to really get that language into the county. And so that is also a consideration. As far as the project and where we're at, again, we're going to finalize design in August. Project will be stamped. We'll have all the final engineers' estimates. We'll have the complete design package. Be ready to go to procurement as soon as the design is complete. We are working on the RFP for both OSP contractors as well as materials. And then, once this moves forward and you are in construction, there's a whole host of other project components, facilities, equipment, and agreements that have to be procured. With that, I'm here for any other questions. Mayor?
All right, council.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
is there, looking at the retail provider option, it mentions here that'd be 100% city revenue. Is there any estimation on a potential timing when that revenue would come in, or the amount of potential revenue based on our city landscape or infrastructure that we have now?
Yes, sir, we do. We have all those details.
Mr. Mayor, are you done, sir?
Yeah.
Uh,
Go ahead.
And we're looking at different funding sources, the ARPA, maybe GeoBond or whatever, but as we bring customers on board, if we did our standalone system, we would also be creating revenue to build out, correct?
You would be. As you start to cash flow, yes, you would be cash rolling capital expenses after certain years.
So that's something to look at too, because what you're looking at some of what we might have to look at financing that may change as we build out.
It will. It will.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions right now? All right, well, thank you so much. A lot of work, a lot of great stuff happening, and a couple options for council to really take a deep dive look and see in which direction they want to go. So that is it for this portion of it.